Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today I wanted to revisit a video that we did about 8 months ago called 7 CGC 9.8 comics guaranteed to go up in value. And I just want to kind of check in on the prices of how these books have done, you know, considering we did kind of guarantee them to go up in value. I think lately too on the channel we've really been focusing on like underfollowed books and overlooked CGC 9.8 comic books because, you know, some of these main ones have just blown up in price and they're so expensive. So I think now though is a good time to kind of revisit them, see where the prices have gone, and maybe talk about, you know, should you buy them now or, you know, should you still buy them kind of thing. Okay, so let's get right into the list. I'll go in the exact order we did that original video as well. You could certainly check out that original video because yeah, the selections have done quite well. Yeah, and it'll be pretty exciting to kind of get through all of them here. So the first book on the list was and is an Ultimate Fallout number 4 in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, first appearance of Miles Morales. Lucky enough to have one, and I'll get a graphic up here. But Ultimate Fallout 4, first appearance of the new Spider-Man Miles Morales. Miles Morales has just become so accepted through the collector community and like in pop culture too as like the new Spider-Man. So I sort of saw that, you know, 7 to 8 months ago and really, you know, wanted to recommend this one. We'll get into some of the pricing of how it was back then and kind of how the pricing is now. There's a 1,939 CGC 9.8s in the blue label on the census now. Yeah, that's 200 or 300 more than there was when I made that video 8 months ago. So this is a popular key issue that is well graded. Of all graded copies, only 31.5% of them are CGC 9.8s. I've always mentioned that's quite a lot. That's quite low and rare for a modern CGC 9.8. Most modern books are like 40, 50, 60, 70% of them are CGC 9.8s. So to get in the low 30s there is a really rare 9.8. And then you mix that in with first appearance of new Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man so iconic. That's sort of the road I went to really recommending this one, 7 to 8 months ago. So if we talk about the prices now, because back when I was recommending it on that video, I had just purchased mine like maybe a month or two earlier for $354, the Ultimate Fallout 4 CGC 9.8 white pages. And I think during that video they were kind of around $400. If you wanted it now, maybe paying up to $450 for the Ultimate Fallout 4. So yeah, 7 to 8 months later, you know, right now the lowest completed listings I'm seeing are $895. Some going for $1,000 as well. And you know, a month or two ago when the Miles fever was kind of at its hype, there were a couple of these sold for like $1,400, $1,300 as well. So this is a book that certainly has went up in value. I'll sort of wait until my top picks to kind of really, you know, if you should kind of get out there and buy this one at the price. You know, I still think there could be a little bit of a lull here in Ultimate Fallout 4 before that next Into the Spider-Verse movie comes out. So, you know, $895 being the lowest price now, maybe you can get it closer to kind of, you know, $750 maybe. But this is a tough one because it is such a big first modern appearance that I do recommend to own and, you know, from an investment perspective for sure. But so Ultimate Fallout 4, the price has done well. It certainly went up in value from that video we've done, you know, 7 to 8 months ago. Next one on the list is a Star Wars number 1. Yeah, Star Wars number 1, one I recommended back then and still kind of one to recommend, I think. You know, such a great first appearance of all the classic characters, Luke, Leia, Darth Vader, and you know, kind of a movie adaptation. So some people have sort of shied away from this book because of that, but the prices have done quite well on Star Wars number 1 too. There's 629 CGC 9.8s out there in the Star Wars number 1. This is the 30-cent version. Like the 35-cent version is extremely rare, so expensive. So this one's kind of more attainable for most people. But also too, what you really love about this book is a 7.3% CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, only 7.3% of them are CGC 9.8s. This is a 1977 book, so you know, you kind of expect it to be pretty rare during this time, the 9.8s, but still love to see the single digit 9.8 ratio. And I'll get up a graphic here, actually. I'm sort of used to holding them up usually, but And if we talk about prices for Star Wars #1 in the 9.8, it's done pretty well. I did have some people sort of message me like, oh, it's doubled in price and this and that, but having a look on eBay and also Go Collect, they basically have the fair market value right now at $1,500, and two on eBay sold for basically $1,499. There were quite a few like best offers that, you know, they're not as transparent on eBay about what those final prices were on the best offer, so maybe some kind of ticked over 1,500. But when I recommended it on our video there about 7 to 8 months ago, Star Wars #1 was about $900, I would say. I grabbed mine for, it was like $930 or something like that, like about 2 years ago now in an auction. And I just thought, yeah, that's expensive, but this is like such an iconic brand, and some of the things still hold true that I was talking about on that video, like, you know, Star Wars is kind of in a bad place. You know, 7 to 8 months ago, it was kind of in a bad place. The brand was on a bit of a low because people were really critical of how the newer Disney Star Wars movies were going, the direction. But now, 7, 8 months later, and I always said Star Wars has a real good chance to kind of come back because all the billions of Disney behind them, like eventually it'll probably come back. Well, it only took kind of 5 or 6 months because The Mandalorian really hit hard. Everyone's really loving The Mandalorian. And then pretty much, since The Mandalorian's been doing really well, everyone's kind of reacquainting themselves with Star Wars. So, yeah, this one has gone up in value. Yeah, I think basically from 900 to about 1,500 now. This one, I think, is still kind of a juicy buy, even at this price, because a lot of people are kind of focusing on Star Wars 42. Personally, I had this thought before I got on camera, and I don't know if I'm going to do it, but seeing the Star Wars 42 prices, because I do have one in the 9.8, some of them selling for like $1,500-ish, I'm almost considering selling my Star Wars 42 and buying another Star Wars #1. Yeah, like that's a thought I had before I got on camera because I was looking up some of the completed listings for Star Wars 42 as well, and just shocked at how much that book has increased in value as well. But Star Wars 1, just the classic, the first appearance of all the great Star Wars characters, and I think probably has a better long-term future than Star Wars 42. So just a thought I had. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, but Star Wars #1 did go up in value from that last video we did. So yeah, I think, and I still think it's still a decent price given, you know, what could happen with Star Wars moving forward and just how big of an iconic brand it is. And it's, you know, the first appearance, Star Wars #1. So, okay, next one here is an Incredible Hulk 340. Yeah, Incredible Hulk 340. It's the second time ever Hulk and Wolverine fight with the classic Todd McFarlane Hulk Wolverine cover. It's well collected. And I have 4 of these in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, this is just big. I'm a big McFarlane fan, and you know, this is sort of, I think, the go-to affordable alternative to Incredible Hulk 181, which is a great book, great cover, kind of out of my era, and I don't remember that book from my childhood at all, so I don't really like to spend big money on like those kind of books, but I do remember Incredible Hulk 340 from my childhood. And yeah, that's why I have 4 in the CGC 9.8, but 719 9.8s out there in the blue label, so kind of a 1 of 719 collector item is pretty great. 13.7% is the 9.8 ratio, so of all graded copies, 13.7% of them are CGC 9.8s, and for a late 80s book, that is favorable. That's a really good kind of investment grade 9.8 ratio. Usually late 80s, they're almost all over 20%. This is getting nice and low, nice and rare for a late 80s book. And that's why it's pretty expensive. And so when I was recommending it on that video 7 to 8 months ago, they were about $400. If you wanted it now, $450. Maybe if you got super lucky in an auction, $375 kind of thing. So looking at the completed listings on eBay this morning, seeing a few sell for $750. Yeah, 750 bucks, kind of coming up from 400. So this one's increased in value as well. I'm going to say about 2-3 months ago, there were some whispers that Wolverine versus Hulk was in pre-production. A total rumor. That was sort of the beginning, I think, of this book kind of heating up, along with just the general CGC 9.8 market doing pretty well, I think is the reason why this one has increased in value. But this is kind of one that, yeah, you know, 400 to 750 maybe hasn't increased as much as some others. and still could be worth considering. Like certainly if you're a big McFarlane fan, and if you're kind of looking for a Hulk 181 alternative, or you're just a huge Wolverine Hulk fan like me. Yeah, Incredible Hulk 340 maybe hasn't run up in price that much, and still maybe one worth getting out there and buying. And I will have the top picks at the end of the video here to kind of get a little more definitive on that. Next one here though, it's an Uncanny X-Men 121. Yeah, I recommended this one on the last video. First full appearance of Alpha Flight with this crazy white cover by Dave Cockrum, who just does the classicest X-Men, art. Dave Cockrum for sure, teaming up with John Byrne and Terry Austin during the classic John Byrne run. Yeah, this is just one book to want. It's somewhat affordable. I'll get up a graphic. It's somewhat affordable when you consider X-Men 120 in the CGC 9.8 is extremely rare, an extremely low 9.8 ratio. It's like over 2,000 at least in the CGC 9.8 for X-Men 120. So X-Men 121 is just as cool, I think. Maybe not as rare in the 9.8, but a great collector item, I think, for the price. And Alpha Flight certainly hasn't got a huge push in very many movies or anything, like big pop culture push or anything like that. So there's still that possibility for the future, I think, with Alpha Flight. But for this one, still a pretty tough white cover. There's 307 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. So not too many of them. Yeah, for kind of a big first appearance, not too many 9.8s. 12.5% the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, 12.5% of them are CGC 9.8s. For a book this age, this is I'm pretty sure it's 79. Yeah, May of 1979. For a book of that age, that's not super, super rare in the 9.8, which is still why I think it's somewhat affordable, but still a decent ratio. It's pretty similar to Hulk 340, but Hulk 340's late 80s, which gives you a really good idea of how rare Hulk 340 in the 9.8 is. But having a look at prices for Uncanny X-Men 121, first full appearance of Alpha Flight, I purchased mine for $550. I'd mentioned even back then that was quite a pretty good deal. It was in Canada, kind of from a guy that it popped up, and I think he was asking $6.99 or best offer, and ended up kind of getting a deal done for $550. I thought that was a really good price back then. Just having a look on completed listings this morning. One in the CGC 9.8 white pages too. This one's a nice white page one, a 9.9 candidate, the one I got. The one that sold though, 9.8 white pages, looking really similar to mine, looking really good for $1,020. So yeah, kind of cracking the 1,000 mark on Uncanny X-Men 121. So that one has kind of done pretty well too. I think, yeah, in this hot environment where almost all CGC 9.8s have done pretty well. You throw in an iconic first appearance with potential, and which most of these books have, then most of them have done pretty well. But this one going down as almost a double if this price of just over $1,000 holds. Yeah, I think there tends to be a lot in this book in the off-white to white pages. So these, I think, yeah, the CGC 9.8 white pages versions of this book, I think could hold around $1,000. Maybe off-white to white, $900, $800. Every now and then you'll see one of those go for. But if you want the top of the line, yeah, this one still kind of makes sense around $1,000. Yeah, Uncanny X-Men 121, first full appearance of Alpha Flight. One that somewhat overlooked, I feel like, during that Byrne era. There's so many great keys during that era, but still somewhat overlooked, but trending nicely in the prices, I would say. Okay, next one here is an amazing Spider-Man 300. Yeah, such a big iconic book that's kind of heating up right now, I gotta say. I'm pretty sure it's kind of on the hot list right now. So we'll talk about some of the recent prices in it, but I have 2 copies of these. Yeah, this is one. I kind of made sure I wanted to get 2, even though they were really expensive. But it does really stand out for a CGC 9.8 in the era. Amazing Spider-Man 300. There's 1,027 CGC 9.8s out there in the blue label. So that kind of sounds like a lot, but for how popular Venom is, that's not a lot at all. Venom is the most popular modern character, anti-hero, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's actually not a lot of 9.8s for how popular the character is, but it's all about kind of the 5.7% CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies of Amazing Spider-Man 300, only 5.7% of them are CGC 9.8s. For a late 80s book, that's like extremely rare. It's pretty much unheard of. The only other book that sort of comes close in the era is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, which is like $80,000 now in the CGC 9.8. So yeah, it's just that with that rare 9.8 ratio, it compares so well to every other 1980s book, which is why it's basically at the top of the barrel in price. And I always recommended this one, even though a lot of people, you get that comment like, oh, I'd never pay $2,000 for a book. Well, we have a look at the prices now. Basically, this one here is a really nice new case copy. I was really patient trying to buy this one, and I grabbed it for $1,950. I have another one in an old case that that was one of the first 9.8s I bought, and I paid, it was close to $2,500 for that one. I made kind of videos saying I overpaid on that one, and it was a lesson learned kind of thing. But if we have a look at recent completed listings for Amazing Spider-Man 300, there was one just on eBay that sold for $4,600 in the CGC 9.8. A weird time for the book because with Null coming out, like everyone's just crazy about symbiotes, plus you got Venom 2 coming out soon as well. So there's a lot of hype for the symbiotes, and it all kind of goes back to this book. So I think right now that $4,600 seems really expensive. There hadn't been a 9.8 popping up on eBay for a really long time. I think that's one of the reasons why someone probably just jumped on that one for $4,600, because a newsstand version of this one in the CGC 9.8 white pages in the last 2-3 months here sold for $4,500, and the newsstand's way more rare. The newsstand version here, this is a direct version. And the direct version that sold was for $4,600. That was a direct version. So I think right now it's a bit of the sign of the time for Amazing Spider-Man 300. And I mean, I've always, even when the price was sort of over $2,500, some of the deals were going for about a month or two ago, I was still kind of recommending to buy it. But now, if you have to pay over $4,000 for it, I think you could be a little bit patient here. You wait until after Venom 2 movie. 6 months after the Venom 2 movie, I think this will start to lull again around kind of $3,000. And then that could be a time to kind of step in, maybe just under $3,000 kind of thing. I could see it settling sort of after the Venom 2 movie. But yeah, on a guaranteed to go up in value list, yeah, buying it right around $2,000. And a couple people on the team had bought ones for like $1,750 during that time too, when I was recommending. So yeah, this is one, it's just extremely rare. It's like the most rare, basically attainable 9.8 that you can get in the 80s. Maybe right now is not the time to buy it because it's on the hot list, but I do recommend it. And yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 300. I've said it kind of in the past, it's like if there's one sure thing in CGC 9.8 collecting, it's probably Amazing Spider-Man 300. Like, yeah, origin, first appearance of Venom. It's extremely rare in the 9.8 with that 5.7% ratio. The cover's been homaged a gazillion times, so, like newer collectors are all aware of the cover because it's homaged so many times, and plus you got kind of the Todd McFarlane cult of fans. Like, yeah, it just ticks every box. Amazing Spider-Man 300, probably the closest thing to a sure thing that you're going to get in 9.8 collecting. All right, next book is a Batman Beyond #1. Yeah, Batman Beyond #1 in the CGC 9.8. And I got 2 of these here in the 9.8. You want to make sure to get the sort of UPC version, like the direct or the newsstand UPC version. There's like those origin issues, and there's a couple other kind of obscure prints, but the kind of the serious collectors are really just hunting the either the newsstand version or the direct version, and the newsstands are so rare. I got 2 direct versions of Batman Beyond #1. So to have a look on the census, this one I think most people will know has done pretty well in the pricing as well. 217 CGC 9.8s out there in the blue label, and 37.2% is the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, 37.2% of them are 9.8s. This is one I've sort of mentioned in the past that it's a little bit more about the 217 9.8s. Like, for how popular Batman Beyond is, there should be like 600-700 of these in the 9.8. but because it was really low printed, and because it came out sort of in that 1999 frame where basically that was like the comic book recession. Like that was the peak of the tech bubble during that time, so all the kids were out playing computer games and video games and stuff like that and not reading comic books as much. Comic book printing really went down the tube during that time. This was before the kind of MCU came and all the movies came along. This is kind of right in the midst of the comic book recession when Batman Beyond #1 came out. Plus it's like a WB Kids book, so you know, I have a feeling the ones that did sell, they were just like, hey kid, like have a Batman Beyond #1 and enjoy it and just beat it up, right? So it's pretty tough to find in the 9.8 with only 217 out there in the blue label. So we talk about prices with Batman Beyond. Yeah, I purchased both of mine for, like, one was around $400, one was around $450. And yeah, if we have a look at the last two completed listings on eBay, one was $1,500 and one was $1,649. So, you know, this is another kind of book of the moment that's really hot right now. Obviously, I love Batman Beyond and I want to recommend this book, but I think at this price, it's just not worth diving in there right now. There are some sort of whispers now, and you know, I'm not too on top of the market for other Batman Beyond books, but some whispers and posts on Instagram about how Batman Beyond books are cooling off a bit. And I think that's pretty healthy. Like I don't view that as like a negative, because this book has went from $400 to $1,649. Like things never go up straight, you know, all the time. Like they just don't keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. So I feel like a pullback sort of in Batman Beyond #1 9.8 here is a healthy thing. Personally, you know, there's a little bit of letdown from the DC fandom. There wasn't really like a big Batman Beyond movie announcement or anything. So I have a feeling this book can lull. You know, right before it really got white hot, a few of them sold for $980, I think it was. Like there was one seller that had them just under $1,000, and I think there was 3 of them that he had, and they were just under $1,000. So I think that could be a price target. Yeah, right. Like if it starts to, a couple of them start to sell near $1,000, try to get one right around $1,000. I think that's much more savvy than kind of getting in there and buying one for $1,500 right now. That just seems a little too expensive for like a modern, you know, comic book basically. I mean, great first appearance, Batman Beyond. Hard for me not to recommend this one. Basically, the first like 7 months of videos I did for this channel, it was all just like buy Batman Beyond #1, because like just I have a feeling he's going to be like the new modern Batman. And you know, it's these new modern, like new Miles Morales Spider-Man, new modern Batman, Terry McGinnis. There's a lot of reasons why they could do really, really well over time. But yeah, maybe be a little patient on Batman Beyond 1. I have a feeling it's going to lull here with that letdown from the DC fandom. So hopefully get it closer to 1,000. Not 1,649 in the 9.8. But yeah, Batman Beyond 1 in the 9.8 has definitely gone up in value. Yeah. All right, last one on the list here. I'm really glad I sort of included this one on the list back in the day. It's a Batman 404. I wanted to have one like sort of really affordable one on the list back then, and kind of got lucky with this one. Like this one's up in value a bit too. So Batman 404 is Year 1, Part 1. It's the first modern appearance of Catwoman, but really just that classic cover, and you get the origin of Batman retold. I love the origin of Batman. Yeah, just a great origin of a hero, and getting it retold by Frank Miller. So yeah, certainly so many reasons to kind of want a Batman 404. I always thought it was pretty undervalued back then, like just the classic 80s Batman cover to get. But you could get it for such a good price back then. We'll get into prices. On the census though, 581 9.8s in the blue label. So not too bad for a really popular Batman cover. Only one of 581 collector item, pretty cool. 28.3% the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, 28.3% of them are 9.8s, and this is a late 80s book too. So this is basically what I would call like an average late 80s book rarity. Whereas Amazing Spider-Man 300 is crazy rare, 5.7% of them are 9.8s. Batman 404, about the same age, 28.3% of them are 9.8s. So kind of, you know, not really rare, nothing to write home about in sort of the 9.8 rarity, but that's why it was pretty affordable. So I have 2 CGC 9.8s, and one CBCS 9.8 of Batman 404. Yeah, just like one of my favorite issues. And I paid for one of my CGCs, I paid $109 in an auction. For my CBCS 9.8, I paid like $84 or something like that in an auction. And then my first Batman 404 that I bought, 3 years ago now it was, I paid about $150 for that one. Yeah, a bit of an overpay for the time, but a decent price, I would say. So now, having a look, completed listings, a couple of them in the last week or two here have sold for $220. Yeah, so kind of 110 up to 220, not bad. A double for Batman 404 as well. And yeah, I think for Batman 404, obviously the Batman movie, like getting everyone pumped up, and for good reason, I think, with the trailer being really cool. But with Robert Pattinson being a really young Batman, people are just kind of going immediately to year one, part one, I think for good reason. And also, like, apparently the Batman is going to be based on The Long Halloween, which it kind of happens after year one. Is like the Batman story that happens after year one, and that The Long Halloween has really heated up. I wouldn't recommend that one, but Batman 404, maybe in an auction you can get it under $200. I still think that's a pretty decent value. It's going to be tough to get a good price on it now because all the Batman fans are coming out of the woodwork, and I'm really happy about it. I've collected Batman books for the last 3 years, like voraciously, I would say. Like, I love Batman. Definitely wanted to get kind of all the 80s Batman books that I remembered from when I was a kid, and pretty much did. So I'm really happy with just how all the Batman fans are kind of coming out of the woodwork. But I kind of have a feeling that this could maybe just be the beginning for Batman 404. Yeah, like maybe around 200. I could see this one just being like one of the affordable Batman 9.8s to buy, and maybe it's worth like $275 to $300 in a couple years kind of thing. Although, because the Batman movie's coming out, you want to maybe expect a lull after the Batman movie. So, this price might sort of have a bit of a range for the next few years for sure, because there's so much promotion right now. But yeah, Batman 404, just a classic cover. And yeah, the value's done pretty well in the last kind of 7 or 8 months here since that last video. So, okay, that was the 7. And yeah, if you didn't notice, like all 7, they've pretty much increased in value. So I'm happy about that. I mean, it's better to be right than wrong, I guess. So I don't want to like pump my own tires too much. But yeah, I think I was kind of on the right track with these 9.8 recommendations. But now the prices are really expensive, right? So let's get into some top picks here. And I got kind of my 3 top picks, and it's kind of weird because I don't think they're the 3 books I like the best, but given that how expensive some of these other ones have got, I think, these are probably the 3 best buys right now. So first best buy is Star Wars #1. Yeah, Star Wars #1 in the CGC 9.8. Like, people had told me that book doubled. Like, I had multiple people tell me that the book had doubled, but I don't know, I'm pretty sure like 900 was the fair value, and if it doubled, it would have been 1,800, but I hadn't seen any sell for 1,800 on the completed listings. And Go Collect and eBay listings, the transparent ones that you can see, are all basically 1,500. So Star Wars #1, I don't think hasn't doubled yet, and if you can get it around $1,500 in the CGC 9.8, it's a serious one, serious investment grade book. I still think it's a good buy at $1,500. I think there's still room for it to go up. And yeah, Star Wars is on the up, I think, with The Mandalorian, but there's still like 20, 30 years of Star Wars movies to come going forward here. And I bet 1 or 2 of them at least is going to be a huge hit. And so yeah, just the big iconic first appearance of all the Star Wars characters. You want to have that one. And I'm surprised it hasn't gone up even more. And yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe at one point they did sell for closer to 2,000 and it did double, but I'm just not seeing that. So at 1,500, I think Star Wars #1, CGC 9.8 white pages, is still a good buy. All right, next top pick here, #2, Incredible Hulk 340. Yeah, Hulk 340, a lot of people will say like it's not a key issue. Like, that's one of the main kind of gripes you hear about it, because there's no big first appearance or anything. But second time Hulk and Wolverine ever fight, it happened over 10 years after the first time they fought. So had to wait a full 10 years for Wolverine and Hulk to duke it out again. So that, I think, is a pretty big deal. Plus, early McFarlane cover. You're always going to have the McFarlane cult of fans loving this one. it's a very innovative cover too. Like it's, I've called it like kind of like a brave cover, where, you know, I don't think anyone sort of thought of doing like a reflection in like the claws of Wolverine kind of thing. Like just, it's a concept cover that makes it amazing, more so than, like the art's cool, but it's pretty simple art, but it's just, the whole concept of it is just amazing. And there's been a lot of homages since then. So Hulk 340 with, you know, them going for sort of 400 to 450. Now they're about 750. I see the completed listings. I think it's still kind of one to get in there and want, especially if you're a Hulk and Wolverine fan and if you're a McFarlane fan. Like it definitely, I wouldn't focus on the sort of it's not a key issue argument. Like I think, you know, those McFarlane cult of fans will always be there. There's always going to be Hulk and Wolverine fans. So I think this one is trending in the right direction. You know, it went from 400 to 750. Not super expensive yet though, so I think around 700 to 750 you can still look at an Incredible Hulk 340. Look to grab one in the CGC 9.8. Okay, last top pick here is an Uncanny X-Men 221. Yeah, X-Men 221, first full appearance of Alpha Flight. Great cover on it, great action cover. I love those kind of colorful action covers. And yeah, this is just one, it's a bit overlooked throughout the whole John Byrne era, but yet a serious investment grade book. Like, and yeah, like I said too, without Alpha Flight hasn't really made it into like any pop culture stuff. So there's still that possibility in the next 5 or 10 years that they do make it. So yeah, I think Uncanny X-Men 121, it kind of went from, let's say, $600 up to just over $1,000 in price right now. But I think maybe if you're really patient on this one, in the white pages, you get it for about $900. That could have been just a bit of an overpay. Over $1,020 was the completed listing I was seeing. So maybe closer to 900. X-Men 121 really starts to make sense. Yeah, it's just it's a really good investment grade first appearance to get with lots of potential. Okay, yeah, so 3 top picks. Obviously, in my top picks, I don't have an Amazing Spider-Man 300, which it's a weird, like it's on the hot list right now. And I mean, just basically if a book's on the hot list, I just don't buy it at all. You know, hopefully with Amazing Spider-Man 300, you get a lull before these, the Venom 2 movies, which you probably will. There's still months to kind of come before the Venom 2 movie comes out. So I have a feeling you're going to get a lull on this one, and hopefully you can get it closer to $3,000, with the one going for $4,600. Is I think going to go down as an overpay and someone just super excited about Null and Venom 2 and everything like that. Yeah, so Amazing Spider-Man 300, I think you want to wait on Batman Beyond #1. You probably want to wait on 2, although they seem to be lulling, so you know, maybe want to be quick in the next month or two if you can get a Batman Beyond CGC 9.8 under $1,000. That might be worth going after it, but not around 1,640. So that's why that's not on my top picks too. Ultimate Fallout 4 really kind of was really close to putting it on my top picks because it did run up there to like 1,300, 1,400, but now a couple selling for $895. I think you can start thinking about staying on top of Ultimate Fallout listings, and maybe you see one dip under 800. It might be worth, you know, kind of seizing the opportunity and buying that one as well. Yeah, that probably would have been my 4th top pick, Ultimate Fallout 4. Keep an eye on that one because it does seem to be a bit lulling, and hopefully you can get one, yeah, like I said, hopefully under 800 before Into the Spider-Verse #2 comes out, because then it's going to heat right back up during the movie. So all right, I think that'll be all for today. Yeah, I got those top picks. And yeah, just concluding up, I thought it would be a good exercise to just have a look at those past recommendations. And I have said on the channel that I've really been focusing on like underfollowed books and like, you know, not basically all the books that aren't these books, because these are all the big ones that I was recommending for a long time that are kind of obvious, but like, man, you want to have the first new Batman, you want to have the first new Spider-Man, you want to have some of these classic Todd McFarlane covers, and that classic Batman 404, like nothing in the 80s gets better than that for Batman fans. So yeah, there's good reasons to choose these, and yeah, I think now, you know, the market's been really hot. I think it kind of makes sense to kind of go back to some of these big books and maybe start following them a little closer and recommending them even a little bit. Because yeah, I think during that initial like spike where, you know, some of the prices are just so much and people are so surprised, that's a little bit of a sign of like maybe a peak of, you know, the pricing for a bit. And, you know, in those situations, you probably want to be patient and not just rush out there. But yeah, I'm sort of looking forward, moving forward on the channel to maybe doing a little bit less like underfollowed, overlooked, and starting to get back right into the big ones and following them a little bit more and seeing when the prices pull back, so I could recommend to kind of, you know, for people on the team, if they want to buy them, to get out there and buy them for a better price. All right, well, if you haven't already, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Yeah, we'd love to have you on our comic book collecting and comic book investing team. And hit the bell for all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Message me on Instagram too. That's kind of probably the easiest way to get a hold of me and ask me a question. But thanks for watching today. Yeah, really cool to kind of get all the big books out. I think it's been a while, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I'm happy with how my recommendations have panned out. Like pretty much everyone on the list of 7 is up in value. That a lot of that has to do with the market, but I think there's a lot of other reasons why that these books kind of stand out in the sort of sea of 9.8s. And I think that's probably more of the reason why they've went up in price than anything else. They're just special. They're just kind of, yeah, and that's really what I initially wanted to focus on that original video, was just kind of getting together like my 7 best, most special 9.8s that I felt were guaranteed to go up in value. And yeah, I think they've done pretty well. So that's, you know, makes me kind of pretty happy, I think. All right, thanks again for watching. Really appreciate all the support from the whole team. Thank you so much. Yeah, just love the conversations I'm having and really appreciating all the support. And yeah, just taking the time to subscribe if you had, that really means a lot. Thanks for watching though, and I'll see you on the next one.